Today we're going to learn some of the most common banjo chord forms. First, let's get just a little bit of preliminary technique and terminology out of the way so that we're all on the same page. One thing that you're going to hear me say a lot during this lesson is to put your fingers at this or that fret. Now the frets, as most of you I'm sure know, are the little metal bars that are put into the fingerboard. So I'm going to say, for instance, fret the low D string at the second fret with your middle finger. So that's going to mean that you push down the string just in front of, so just on the headstock side of that little metal bar and press down. You want to press cleanly or it'll buzz like that. So that's pressing not hard enough, and that's pressing hard enough. So this is going to be fret 1 right here, fret 2, fret 3, fret 4, fret 5, and so on. And now that we've got that out of the way, we can learn some chords. The first and most important chord in banjo is G. And we play that by just strumming all the strings without fretting anything. The banjo is tuned to open G, which is G, D, G, B, D. So that's by far the easiest chord to play. And for some songs, if you know that chord, you're already 1/3 of the way there. The next chord that we're going to learn is C. Now for C, you're going to fret the low D at the second fret with your middle finger, the B string at the first fret with your pointer finger, and the high D at the second fret with your ring finger, and that's going to sound like this. So far we've got the next chord that we're going to learn is D. Now for the D chord, you're going to fret the G string at the second fret with your pointer finger, the B string at the third fret with your middle finger, and the high D at the fourth fret with your pinky, and it's going to sound like this. Now when you're strumming the D string, in most cases you're going to want to be careful to avoid the high G. And the reason for that is it's only 1/2 step away from that right there. So that can be pretty dissonant. So when you're strumming the D chord, you want to avoid the high G. So now we know G, C, and D. Let's go on and learn the rest of the major chords. Starting now at the beginning of the alphabet with A. So we said that strumming the strings open is a G chord. All you have to do to get to an A chord is fret all the strings with one finger at the second fret. Now, as with the D chord, when you're playing the A chord, you want to avoid that high G, because if you don't, you get an A7 chord, which is very useful, but it's not a regular A major chord. So you'll just want to stay on the low D, the G, the B, and the high D strings in most cases when playing A. So for B, I bet you can guess where this is going to be. A sharp, B. So this is where this is also called B flat. So that's a B chord, fretting all the strings at the fourth fret with one finger. And again, this is a B chord, you want to steer clear of that high G string right there, because this note, just like with the D chord, is only 1/2 step away. So again, it's dissonant, so stay away from that high G string. So far we've got A, B, we've got C, we've got D. So let's get on to E. Now E is a lot like the C chord. You're only going to have one finger different. You're still going to be fretting the low D at the second fret with your middle finger, and the high D at the second fret with your ring finger. But instead of fretting the B string at the first fret with your pointer finger, you're going to be fretting the G string at the first fret. Now, once again, with this chord, stay away from the high G, because that doesn't sound good. This sounds good. So stay away from that high G. So now we've got A, B, C, D, and E. Let's get on to F. Now the F chord is a 4-finger chord, which means it can be hard to get to sometimes. To make a 4-fingered F chord, you're going to fret the low D at the 3rd fret with your ring finger. You're going to fret the G at the 2nd fret with your middle finger. You're going to fret the B string at the 1st fret with your pointer finger, and you're going to fret that high D at the 3rd fret with your pinky. And it sounds like this. Now that high G there, if you play it, will give you kind of an F2 sort of chord. So if you want to play just a pure F, then don't hit that high G. But it's not all that bad there. So anyway, we've got A, B, C, D, E, F. And now we're back to G. That gets us through all of the major chords. So now if you're reading through a chord chart and you see just one letter written over some lyrics, you'll know exactly what to play. Now let's look at some minor chords. The most common for banjo is going to be E minor. And for E minor, you fret both of the D strings at the 2nd fret. And for that one, you can hit the high G if you want. The second most common is going to be A minor. Now, an A minor chord is another 4-fingered chord. For that, you're going to be basically, it's just like a regular A, except instead of fretting that B string at the 2nd fret, you're going to be fretting at the 1st fret. So you will need all 4 fingers. So you're going to be fretting the low D, the G, and the high D at the 2nd fret, and the B string at the 1st fret. A minor. Now, that high G there is going to be kind of a little bit of a problem again. If you play it, you get kind of an A minor 2nd sort of chord. So if you want to keep it pure, don't use the high G. But again, it's not all that bad. Alright, so for a D minor chord, you're going to do a regular D chord. Except instead of fretting that high D at the 4th fret with your pinky, you're going to fret it at the 3rd fret. Now again, if you want to keep it strictly D minor, then avoid the high G. So those are the most common minor chords. Other minor chords are going to include B minor, which is just like an A minor chord, except split up 2 frets. So you're fretting the low D, the high D, and the G at the 4th fret, and the B at the 3rd fret. Let's look at a C minor chord. It only really requires 2 fingers. First, you're going to fret the low D at the 1st fret with your pointer. Then you're going to fret both the high D and the B at the 1st fret with your middle finger. And there is a C minor. So now we've got A minor, B minor, C minor, and we've got D minor, we got E minor. Now an F minor chord is going to be like an E minor chord that's slid up 1 fret. So instead of doing this, we're going to have to go up 1 fret, and then because we don't have the nut at the 1st fret, we're going to have to fret both the the low G and the B strings at the 1st fret. So an easy way to do that can be to bar all the strings at the 1st fret, and then put your ring finger on the low D at the 3rd, and your pinky on the high D at the 3rd. That is an F minor chord. So now we've got A minor, B minor, C minor, D minor, and F minor. And now let's look at G minor. It can be a hard one to get to. The easiest way to do it is to bar all the strings at the 3rd fret and then fret the low D and the high D at the 5th fret with your ring finger and pinky finger. So that's our G minor right there, which is, as you may have noticed, just an F minor slid up 2 frets. So now we got all the minor chords, and they are A minor, B minor, C minor, D minor, E minor, F minor, and G minor. Now, of course, there are things like F sharp minor, which you'll come across sometimes. Now, anytime you see a sharp in there, you think, well, okay, let's take an F minor and move it up 1 fret, because that's a 1/2 step up, and that'll get you to F sharp. So we got F minor, this will be F sharp minor. So it's halfway between F minor and G minor. It's right there, F sharp minor. Now if we see B flat minor, we're going to go to our B minor chord, slide it down 1, because anytime you hear flat, think 1/2 step below what you would otherwise be doing. So a B flat minor chord is 1/2 step flat of B minor. Okay, now, given that we know that, we can imagine that having a B chord, we would just take it down 1 to here. This is B flat, so B, B flat, A. Now B flat and A sharp are going to be the same thing, because A sharp is just 1/2 step up from A, which is here. That's A sharp. B flat is 1/2 step down from B. So they're actually the same chord. So don't get confused about that. B flat and A sharp are going to be the same thing. So let's look at a few 7th chords real quick. We've already run across one accidentally, and that was A7. Now A7 we get by having a regular A chord and including a G note. So A7. Now another way that you can do that without using the high G string would be to include this G note. Instead of fretting that string at the 2nd fret along with all the others, just fret the low D, the high D, and the B at the 2nd fret. That gives you an A7 chord as well. So now that we know A7, let's move on to some of the other really common 7th chords. Here's a D7. Okay, now I'm doing this by fretting the G string at the 2nd fret with my middle finger, and the B string at the 1st fret with my pointer finger. This chord is used in lots of songs along with G and C, like Home on the Range and stuff like that. Now we got D7. Ooh, let's look at E7. E7 is going to be a regular E chord minus one of our D strings. Or, so either of those works as an E7 chord. You just move either your middle finger on the low D or your ring finger on the high D. Those are both good E7 chords. And E7 works really well with A7 in lots of blues type stuff. So in all blues stuff, you're going to use E, A, and B, well, really commonly. So you can easily make that, E7, A7, and B to add a little bit of interest. You could also do a B7, which is a harder fingering for banjo. If you were going to try to do it down the neck, you would bar all the strings at the 2nd fret there, and then you would fret the D string, the B string, and the high D at the 4th fret, which is difficult to do cleanly. So if you are going to use that chord, I would recommend just using a few of the notes. So just fret the G string at the 2nd fret and the low D and the B at the 4th. That's a perfectly acceptable B7. So you could go E7, A7, B7, and you've got all the chords you need for that. Okay, I think that that's all the common 7th chords. Now, of course, there are 7th chords for all of the other root notes that go in chords. So you'd have, for instance, an F7 and a C7. Ooh, we can do C7. So regular C chord plus the G note fretted at the 3rd fret. So that's your G7 there. Now there's also things called major 7th and minor 7th, and I'm just showing you the chords that are commonly used. for bluegrass. So if somebody says C7, it's probably going to end up being that, although there are multiple 7th chords that you could have. Now if you did happen to be looking for a chord that I haven't shown you, let's say that you were looking for F7, we know E7. Now if you wanted to get an F7 pretty easily there, all you'd have to do would be to move that up 1 fret. Because E doesn't have a sharp and F doesn't have a flat. E7 and F7. Now you'd want to avoid this note right here, unless you plan on borrowing it. So E7 and F7. It's easy to figure these things out if you just think in terms of sharps and flats. So let's go ahead and run through them real quick. We've got A7. We've got B7. We've got C7. We've got D7. We've got E7. We've got F7. And let's look at G7. That's G7 right there. Fretting the either high D or low D at the 3rd fret. So there you have all your 7th chords. So we got all of our major chords, we've got all of our 7th chords, we got all of our minor chords. Now it's important to note that the fingerings that I'm showing you in this video aren't the only fingerings for a given chord. Let's take G for instance. G's got all kinds of fingerings up and down the neck, and I'll show you just a few of them. G, 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 and G. Alright, so, and also G, right there. So obviously there's a lot of places that you can play all these chords. For D we got D there, D there, D there, and D there. We got lots of fingerings for all the chords on the banjo fingerboard. Some really easy ones to remember are G, A, C, D, F, G, C, D, and so on. If you spend a lot of time playing the banjo, then these other fingerings, you'll learn them over time, because sometimes, you know, we're playing an up the neck break, we'll end up somewhere like here. And those are just fingerings for chords that we already know, but you'll learn them as you get there. And that should give you just about what you need to play almost anything. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope it was helpful. G chord. A chord. B chord. C chord. D chord. E chord. F chord. E minor. A minor. B minor. C minor. D minor. F minor. G minor. A7. Or B7. D7, E7, or F7, G7, or